It is time for Political Breakfast. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is sitting in a prime spot after a commanding win in Tuesday's primary election. She clinched the Democratic nomination for Georgia governor. She's free to focus on November, while the GOP nomination has yet to be decided. Billionaire businessman Rick Jackson and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones find themselves stumping into a June runoff. Are they in a tight spot? Strategist Tharon Johnson and Brian Robinson are here this morning to give more perspective. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tharon. I'll start with you. Given that Keisha Lance Bottoms won over 55% of the vote to clear a pretty crowded field without a runoff, did the GOP miscalculate her strength?
Well, it was a very impressive and remarkable win for Keisha Lance Bottoms and her campaign. You know, there's a difference between running a campaign and winning an election. And clearly she had a strategy that she wanted to implement to win this primary election. Did the GOP miss it? No, Lisa. They actually spent, if not millions of dollars, against her, telling the electorate how bad she was. So I think that what she was able to do is use those attacks to fuel the excitement about her candidacy across the state. But the one thing I want to talk about, when you look at this race and you look at these numbers, for her to win every single county in the state, except one, was extremely, extremely impressive. You know, a lot of people were thinking, could she not avoid a runoff? Well, clearly she did. And I think it was because of the Black woman tsunami that happened out there. Now, Lisa, I'm starting to hear from more and more women, voters, why they voted for Keisha Lance Bottoms. And it's a lot of different issues that they were very concerned about. But one thing that has constantly come up is that ever since the election of Donald Trump in 2016, Black women in particular have been feeling like the world changed. And so this was an opportunity for them to go out and not only support Keisha Lance Bottoms, but if you look at the data, Lisa, every single Black woman on the ballot on Tuesday finished in first place in their elections. So I'm going to go into a runoff, but every single Black woman on the ballot finished first in their election. So that's a really, really good sign for Democrats, the number one voting bloc in our base. Now, how does Keisha Lance Bottoms expand that base going into November? And last thing I'll say is this. Michael Thurman, who most times was in second in this race, the ageism problem was an issue, and it was just something he couldn't overcome.
Couldn't overcome it.
People didn't trust Deb Duncan, and I think Jason Estevez, while he did surge, he just didn't have enough time. So big kudos to Keisha. She did a great race, and she's our nominee.
Tharon, thank you. Brian, let's get you in here. Give us some thoughts on Keisha Lance Bottoms and now the runoff that Rick Jackson and Burt Jones are facing.
Yeah, well, kudos to Keisha Lance Bottoms. As Tharon has heard me say, I give her credit for proving me wrong because I thought she made a mistake. I thought she should have put the pedal to the metal, just really focus hard on raising $15 million and putting the primary away. I thought that she wasn't going to. I thought she would be in a runoff, and then there would be a big target on her. The Democratic establishment would coalesce around the other candidate because they would see her as the weaker candidate in a general election, and they smell blood in the water right now. And none of that happened. She won. I was wrong. So congratulations to her. I like to crow when I get it right, but I will always come here and tell you I will eat some crow when I'm wrong. So on our side, you know, we've got a battle royale. We've got polling coming out today. The first public polling that I've seen in the runoff with Burt Jones and Rick Jackson bunched up together in the mid-40s. Burt slightly ahead, but within the margin of error there. So we're going to have a really tight race. And as a side note, that same poll has Mike Collins with a significant lead over Derek Dooley, and Collins in the 50s. The governor's race is going to be where the big competition is at unless Derek Dooley can continue to move as quickly as he was closing in the last few weeks. And what Rick Jackson's got to focus on here, as somebody who finished second, is hoping that the voters for Raffensperger and Carr choose him as their second choice. And, you know, there's reason to think that the Carr and Raff voters are inherently against Burt Jones and would go to Rick Jackson. Rick Jackson's got to give them a reason to show back up and to support him. And on the Burt Jones side, his advantage here is that he continues to have that Trump endorsement. I do believe personally that helped him get some momentum with undecided voters heading into Tuesday. And some of them were like, I'm not really sure. I like them both, but let's look at what Trump told me to do. So I think that's an advantage, and I think Rick Jackson has an advantage, and there'll be no shortage of resources thrown into this over the next 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, Tharon, I imagine Democrats will be watching this runoff very closely. Do you think Jackson and Jones will attack one another, or will they try to turn their attention and factor Keisha Lance Bottoms into this somehow?
Real quick, Lisa, I do want to fact check my statement from earlier. Everyone except Miracle Rankin actually got the first place finish, because Brian, I found out that Justice Sarah Warren actually listens to Political Breakfast. So if she's listening to her team, well, then make a correction. Of course they're going to attack each other, Lisa. They have to. They even attacked each other on the stage Tuesday night. And it's not the wrong thing to do. You have to continue to do what was working. Now, I've said this to Brian. The one person in campaign in a very authentic way that can pivot in a very positive messaging to the Republican base that says, hey, I'm the best person, best man to go on to try to defeat Keisha Lance Bottoms in the general, that would be a breakthrough moment. I just don't know that the climate right now is just so unpredictable, because now you got to get people back out to vote. But they're going to have enough money to achieve all their goals.
Yeah, Brian, this commanding win signals a unified Democratic Party. So will this change the way Republicans approach the runoff and eventually the general election?
You cannot turn your eyes to the general election when you're in the middle of a primary runoff. I mean, you've got to do turnout. You've got to have an ideological appeal to conservatives in a Republican primary, or to liberals in a Democratic primary. And if you don't keep your eye on the ball, you will strike out. And then there is no general election for you. So no, they are not thinking about Keisha Lance Bottoms. But I will tell you this. They feel very good that she is the nominee, because we feel like her record in the city of Atlanta is one that's not going to be appealing statewide. We saw crime surge. We've been over it time and time again over the last 7, 8 years here. So I think that branding has sunk in. I agree with Tharon. The Black woman tsunami really did carry her to shore. And I do think the Democrats are unified. I think the Democrats are universally angry and energized. All of that's true. Republicans have to factor that in, and Republicans have to nominate somebody who's a better candidate, somebody who's a clear, better alternative. And the onus is on them. Onus is on those voters to make those smart decisions that attract the deciders, the people who decide general elections in Georgia.
Thanks, guys.